Jackie catches me in the school staff room at the end of lunchtime. "Kate," she says, "can I have a word?" Jackie's the TA in the school's nursery unit. I take her into my office and make her a coffee. She looks like she needs one. "It's probably nothing," she says, "but I'm a bit concerned about one of the children, Jamie Rose." She tells me Jamie is arriving at nursery frequently unkempt, and she says he's clearly hungry. "There's something else," she says. "On a couple of occasions he's been suggested he's been left home alone. I know Jamie. He attends nursery in the morning sessions. His mum Louise helps run the brownies and guides in town. My little girl goes there on a Monday." "Home alone?" I say. I'm surprised. "It's little comments he makes," she says. "He says Mum sometimes goes out without me. Maybe it's nothing, but I wanted to flag it up. As deputy head and safeguarding lead, I tell Jackie I speak to Louise when she picks up Jamie from nursery tomorrow." Jamie's mum is in a rush when she comes to pick up Jamie. "He'll have to be quick, Kate," she says when I tell her I want to speak to her. She calls me Kate as we know each other fairly well from brownies. I mention the Home Alone comments. Louise laughs. "Oh, he's always saying that if I go shopping or after work." He thinks he's missing out in some way. But Paul stays with him in the house. Paul is Louise's partner. They've been together a year or so. "I think sometimes," says Louise, "that Jamie's a bit jealous of Paul. He doesn't like sharing my attention." I smile. "And as for being hungry, he's going through a phase. I can't get him to eat breakfast." I can relate to that. Amelia, my youngest, was just the same at Jamie's age. As Louise gets up to leave, she says, "See you at Brownies on Monday." The next day, Jackie catches me again at the end of lunchtime. She looks worried. "Jamie's got some bruises and cuts to his arm. Sarah, the nursery teacher, noticed them today when he was playing. We're not happy about them." I asked Jackie if she spoke to Louise when she picked up Jamie at lunchtime. "Well, it wasn't Louise who picked him up, it was her partner, Paul," says Jackie. "Paul says he fell off his scooter," says Jackie. "Hence the injuries. Jamie seems to agree. He nodded when I asked him if this is what had happened." I asked Jackie if she believed Paul. She pauses and says, "Jamie appeared quite anxious when Paul picked him up. He clung on to me like he didn't want to leave." I asked Jackie how Jamie had been of himself at nursery. "A bit quiet," she says. "And for some reason, he had a bit of a tantrum when we asked him to go into the store cupboard to get some pencils." Later, I ring Louise to talk through the nursery's concerns. "Oh, Jamie was jumping off his bed, he fell." She tells me when I ask about the bruises. "He's like me, accident prone." I say to Louise, "But Paul says Jamie fell off his scooter." There's a pause. "Yeah, he did, I remember now," she says. "I sometimes worry about my memory. See you at Brownies, Kate." And she rings off. I think I need to speak to the head teacher. The school reports their concerns to children's social care. Louise isn't happy about this. The next day, she storms into school and insists on seeing John Redmond, the head. I can hear her shouting in his office. "I know how these things work. The nursery is breaching confidentiality." When she emerges from the office, she sees me and glares. "This is a witch hunt against Paul and me," she says. I try to calm her down. "Look, our concern is for Jamie's well-being." I tell her, but she's gone. Mind you, children's social care don't seem to be unduly concerned. Following an initial assessment, they feel no action is required. It's September and a new term. I greet my new reception class. I'm glad the head has given me this class. I love teaching this age group. Jamie Rose is now in my class. Things are a bit awkward between his mum and I, but we'll have to cope with that as there'll be a lot more day-to-day communication between us. Louise seemed to blame me for the involvement of children's social care last school year. Things got a bit tense and, as a result, Amelia no longer goes to Brownies. It's a shame for Amelia, but it was getting too awkward. One Saturday, I see the mum of Amelia's friend from Brownies in town. A lovely woman, but a bit of a gossip. "Jamie ended up in A&E over the summer," she tells me. "Some cut above the eye. I noticed the scar in the class the other day." "Apparently," says the mum. Jamie disclosed something to one of the nurses about being hit, but later told a doctor that he'd fallen over. It turns out that the doctor had recommended that Jamie received an eye test, as he always seems to be falling over. The next day in school, John the head tells me he's been made aware of this incident over the summer. The police were actually involved based on what Jamie had allegedly disclosed to the nurse, says John. A third-party allegation, it's called. But the police wouldn't take things further. Why? I asked. It seems, says John, that Jamie wouldn't make the same disclosure to the police. Not only that, but Jamie's story matched what his mother had said, and according to the doctor, his story was consistent with the injury. I can feel myself getting angry. But it's the little things, I say, the things I'm noticing on what the nursery staff picked up last year. The body language when his mum's partner picks him up from school, the disparity between what he tells adults with whom he's formed rapport with and those he hasn't. John cuts me off. I share your frustration, Kate, he says, but social services and the police have both undertaken the necessary assessments and procedures. There's absolutely nothing to suggest otherwise. We have to trust the professionals involved. Maybe Jamie's just accident prone. In my head, I'm thinking I just wish these professionals could get together and see what I see. One day, the children in class are drawing pictures of fireworks for bonfire night. Jamie's particularly quiet. He's rubbing his stomach and I ask if he's all right. He says his tummy hurts. I take him to one side and I gently lift up his school jumper. There's a large bruise across his abdomen. Jamie, I say, how did this happen? He's quiet for a while, then says, Mummy's friend who lives with us. He tells me quietly how Paul hits him. He puts me in a cupboard under the stairs and locks it. I ask Jamie if Paul or his mum do anything else. He lies down on the floor and demonstrates how Paul puts his foot on him and kicks him. Please don't tell Mummy, Jamie says, 'cause that man, he says, die, monster, die. I'm on the way to tell the head when I literally bump into him outside his office. Kate, he says, I was just coming to see you. I've just had Jamie Rose's mum on the phone. She's just made an allegation against one of the dinner ladies. Apparently, Jamie told his mother that the dinner lady physically assaulted him yesterday. I don't believe this. John, Louise knows the system. She's playing us. It's a smoke screen. That might be, says John, but a serious allegation has been made and I have responsibility to follow it up. To be honest, Kate, I don't know what the hell to believe.